Hi, Sean from Last Days Garage. I gotta admit that the title of this video is a little bit clickbait-ish, but there's a lot of truth to it. I have been on YouTube and I've watched dozens of review videos and life with videos and read dozens more articles all about the Ford Maverick. And all of those videos and articles seem to miss the mark by just a little bit.
Missed it by that much.
These reviewers, they take the Maverick and they haul with it and they tow with it and they off-road with it and they do other general trucky stuff with it. And that's okay, the Maverick can do that, but all of them really miss the main point of the Maverick and its main reason for being. And in order to discover what that is or really nail that down, we got to go back in time a little bit.
Flash! Ford Motor Company, that titan of transportation, announced today it will no longer be making cars, concentrating instead on pickup trucks and sport utility vehicles. The only filly left in old Henry's stable will be the Mustang, and that's a horse of a different color.
In 2018, Ford made an earth-shaking announcement. They said they weren't going to make cars anymore. They were going to focus on trucks and SUVs. And the problem with that is it left this huge hole in a very important part of their product catalog, and that is economy cars and entry-level cars. Now, manufacturers view this as an important segment, not because it's a moneymaker, it really isn't, but because if you get people into your economy cars as their first car, their college car, and they have a good experience and they look back and say, oh, I really enjoyed my little Fiesta or my Focus when I was in college. When they get their first real job, you're hoping they're going to trade up to a Bronco Sport or a Ranger, that they're going to stay in the Ford family or the Toyota family or whatever it is. So it's an important segment. So when Ford dropped those cars out of its lineup, how are they going to get people into the Ford brand? Now, they did have the little EcoSport mini SUV, and that really never set the world on fire. It's kind of warmed over product from Central and South America. It was kind of the sand that Ford threw in the face of the competition until they could get something really unique and interesting into the market. At the same time that the Maverick was getting on its feet and starting to get out in the marketplace, Hyundai introduced the Santa Cruz, another mini little pickup. But they went up market with the Santa Cruz, and they could afford to because they already had an Accent, they already had an Elantra, they already had economy cars for the entry-level segment of the market. So they decided to make the Santa Cruz a active lifestyle vehicle. And the graveyard of the automotive industry is littered with active lifestyle vehicles. So the problem with an active lifestyle vehicle is it's a niche market. And once your niche buyers have purchased, the demand kind of falls off a cliff. And then after a couple or a few years, those models die a quiet death. Now, Hyundai could afford to have a niche vehicle because they have the Accent and they have the production line and the tooling and the parts and service support for the Accent. And they have the Elantra and they have the production line space and the tooling and the parts and service support for that. And now they have the Santa Cruz and they have the production line and the parts and tooling and service support for that vehicle. So they could afford to niche down their markets. Ford didn't. Ford had to take one model and drop it across several markets. They had to cover the economy car market. They had to cover the small family kind of second vehicle market. They had to cover the utility and the active lifestyle market. And they had to do that with one product, with one production line, one set of service and parts support. And the Maverick is that vehicle, and I think they nailed it. The real challenge for Ford was to get non-truck people to think about a truck. Now, why don't economy car shoppers also shop trucks? Well, for three reasons, really. Trucks are more expensive, they get worse gas mileage, and they're much bigger. You might not have the space for a big monster truck or even a mid-size truck, which is big as the full-size trucks used to be, you know, in your little dorm parking lot or the single car garage or in front of your apartment. But with the Maverick, Ford knocked down all three of those objections. Now, for the first time, you had non-truck people thinking, you know what, maybe a truck. Maybe it'd be nice to take that wet, stinky camping gear and throw it in the bed of a truck rather than having to smell it all the way home. Or maybe it'd be nice to take that mountain bike and throw it in the bed of a truck rather than have to rig some contraption on the back of my Corolla. Or maybe it'd be nice to be able to take the refrigerator home from the store myself rather than having to pay a delivery fee. So for the first time, you got non-truck people thinking, you know what? Maybe a truck. And when you get people used to a truck, the handiness and utility of a truck, it's much easier to get them to trade up to a Ranger or an F-150 down the road. If I had the ability to do road tests, and I don't, I would take the Maverick and I would get three groups of people, like a college student, maybe a young couple with a baby, and maybe a retired couple. And then I would get two other vehicles to compare with the Maverick, like an Elantra and maybe a Corolla. And I'd have each group live with each vehicle for a week. At the end of the first week, they switch, and then in the second week, they switch, and then I'd get their opinions. You know, you might have some people say, nah, we didn't like the Maverick. I don't like having a truck. I'd rather have a car. My groceries get wet when it rains. Or then you might have other people think, you know what, that truck was really, really handy. I'd never considered a Maverick before, but now that I've lived with one, I might consider buying it. That's the road test I want to see. You know, you can haul with the Maverick, you can tow with it, you can go off-road and all that, but I kind of want to see how its real target market compares the Maverick to other economy cars. Now, how do I know that the economy car market is Ford's real target with the Maverick? It's in the name. Maverick was a name first applied in the late 60s to an economy car. You know, they could have chosen a trucky name for them. They could have called it the F-50. They could have called it the Courier. They could have called it, I don't know, the Transit Sport. But they chose a name of an economy car from the late 60s, early 70s. And what the Maverick brought to the market was, it was based on the old Falcon, so it was cheap to make, and it sold for a cheap price. It wanted to go head-to-head with the foreign cars that were out at the time. But the Maverick was a little bit more stylish, it was a little bigger, had a bigger engine. So Ford's plan was, you get value for money. You're going to get a bigger car with a bigger motor for the same price as one of those little foreign jobs. The Maverick of new has the same mission as the Maverick of old. Today's Maverick is getting people who would consider a small car to think about something with a little more utility. The old Maverick was style and bigger motors and all that stuff. The new Maverick is getting economy car buyers to think about added value when it comes to utility. And that's the real mission of the Maverick. So with all that being said, why does the secondary title of this video say, I'll never own a Maverick? Well, it's not completely true. I never ordered one and I won't buy one, but my wife ordered one several months ago. She ordered a very base model hybrid. The only option she got was the trailer hitch. And so we're going to have a Maverick in the family, and I'm going to drive it. We're going to take it on trips and all that. But I personally won't buy one for myself for one critical reason, and that is I got to have a manual transmission. I cannot stand to drive around in an automatic. My daily's got to be a manual. So I'm going to continue to rock our old 2012 Mazda 5 microvan with the 6-speed. And I have my old Saabs and we have our Miata. So we're going to have manuals in the family. But it's going to be my wife's daily. And I'm looking forward to the Maverick. I think it'll be kind of fun. But I can't daily one because I just can't drive around in automatic. It's a soul-crushing experience. Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't wrap this video up without mentioning the elephant in the room, and that is dealer gouging or markup. Now, this is not going to be a popular opinion, but I actually don't blame the dealers for marking these vehicles up. And I've seen them marked up $10,000, even $15,000. And that's not just the Maverick. That's just about everything sitting on a lot. Now, would I ever pay a dealer markup? No. I'd never pay over sticker ever. But that doesn't mean I blame the dealers for doing it. And let me explain by way of illustration. Let's say you're a baker and every week you sell 500 loaves of bread. In order to do that, every Friday, like clockwork, you get enough flour delivered to bake next week's 500 loaves of bread. But what happens if this weekly delivery doesn't come for 8 or 10 days? And when it does come, you only have enough flour to make 300 loaves. Well, you still have your utility bill to pay, your taxes to pay, employee cost, mortgage, insurance. What are you going to do? You have still all of those fixed costs, but you only have 300 loaves of bread now to pay for it. Well, you're going to do what anybody would do. You're going to raise the price of a loaf of bread. Is that gouging? Call it what you will. But that's the same with these dealers. They normally have 100 cars on the lot, let's say. Now, they only have 20. Every car they sell, they don't know if they're going to be able to replace it or when they're going to be able to replace it. So that one car has got to pay the bills of 3 or 4 cars. I mean, what are you going to do? Now, people are saying, well, they can sell used cars. And they are, and that's keeping them alive. But it's also driving up the price of used cars as they go to the auction and clean out the auctions. But that's another subject. But the problem with a used car is if you go, say, buy a Honda off a Ford lot, you might go get your first oil change at the Ford dealer. But after that, you're going to probably go to the Honda dealership or your local car repair place or someplace else to get the service done. And forget about parts. You're not going to go to the Ford dealer to get your Honda parts. You're going to go to Advance Auto or you're going to go to the Honda dealership. But if you buy a new car, most people service their new cars at least for the first year or two at the dealership. So not only is the dealership losing the ability to sell these cars, they're also losing parts and service support too. Now, I have worked in car sales and in the car industry. I've been a marketing director and I've been a salesman and here and there. There's another little secret. People now, before they buy a new car, they do a ton of internet research. They go through the web, they're looking at all the features and prices and the reviews and all that stuff, and they come a lot more knowledgeable to the dealer, and that's actually a good thing. But what happens is people will do all this research, spend all this time doing this research, and then they'll go out and start test driving cars and go into different dealerships, but they come to a point where they're just sick of shopping for a car. They're just like, all right, I'm done, I want this to be over. When they walk into that dealership with that attitude, when the dealer had 100 cars or so on the lot, they could find something, a car or a truck, pretty close to what they want, get them in it, and then people say, you know what, I'm going to buy this car, I am done, I want my nights and weekends back, I'm done car shopping. But if you don't have those cars on the lot, and this couple comes in and they're just ready to buy, what are you going to do? You're going to take them and say, oh, come over here and put your name on this list, and maybe in 6 months we'll have a car for you. No. They're going to go to the next dealer and the next dealer, and they're going to keep lowering their standards until they find something remotely close to what they were looking for, and they're going to get in it and they're going to drive home. So you lost that sale. So is it gouging? I guess you could call it that. Again, would I ever pay that? No, I'd never pay over sticker. You guys got to remember something. Back in the day, they were selling PT Cruisers and new Beetles over sticker price too, and now here we are. So what would I do? Well, the reason I wouldn't pay over sticker is because if you pay $10,000 more for a Maverick, what are you paying for? You're not getting $10,000 more value in that vehicle. You're only paying for the privilege of putting your hind end in that car today. That's all you're paying for. You might as well take that money, put it in a pile, and burn it up. If you can exercise a little patience, I would say take the $10,000 or $15,000, buy a decent used car truck, that's what I did, and wait out the market. In 2 years, year and a half, there might be a Maverick at every used car lot and rows of them at the dealer. And you could probably get them for sticker or maybe even less. They might even be offering discounts at that point. And then you can take your used truck and then you can sell it and go buy your Maverick. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, yeah, but if I buy the used car market's crazy, and if I buy it, I'm going to pay too much. You're going to pay more than you would have normally, yeah. But would you rather lose $3,000 or $4,000 on a used truck, or $20,000 because you have to get in a Maverick right now? Because the Maverick is still going to lose value. And the other thing is, you don't really lose value in that used vehicle. Even if you buy it and you say you spend $13,000 and you go and you spend $2,000 at a shop and say, look, go over this car top to bottom, the brakes, the fluids, everything, and you're into the vehicle for like $15,000 or whatever, and you drive it for a couple years and then you can only sell it for $10,000. It's like, well, I lost $5,000. No, you got $5,000 worth of use out of the vehicle. I mean, it still got you to work every day, took the kids to soccer practice, went to Antilles for Thanksgiving dinner, took the kids to the beach. You still got use out of the vehicle. You shouldn't expect to make money on your daily driver. They always lose value because you use them up. But you're going to lose a lot less if you are a little bit patient, willing to put the legwork in to find a decent used vehicle. And don't worry if it's got 80, 90,000, if it's been taken care of. This isn't 1976 where cars are used up at 60,000 miles. Most vehicles today will go 200,000 miles if you take care of them. And over 100,000 miles without even breathing hard. So if you're willing to exercise a little patience, it doesn't matter what the dealers ask, you don't have to pay it. There's other options out there. So that's the end of my Maverick video and my thoughts on the subject in the car market. And feel free to comment and trash me down below.